a man of value has slowly diminished over time, and with the rise of the woke culture, men have resorted to following trends instead of living by their own moral principles or cultural principles. Since this has become a problem, men find that they're competing with other men for women, and these women simply have to sit back and pick the best option. However, the game only has to be fair if you keep on playing it by the societal rules and norms that you've probably been forced into following. You see, there are a select few men out there who subscribe to the principles of Stoicism, where they mold themselves into unstoppable beasts of men that no one can truly seem to beat. The great thing is that thanks to the power of Stoicism, there's also something you can do, and if you truly want to, you can become a Stoic monster. This video aims to teach you how to make women obsessed with you. But why Stoicism? Before looking at some of these hacks, it's very important that you understand what Stoicism is and where it comes from. You see, being a Stoic doesn't make you special. Stoicism is very similar to other forms of philosophy like altruism that many people also subscribe to. However, its fundamental goal is what makes it one of the best forms of philosophy. You see, the main goal of Stoicism isn't to help you get women. Stoicism focuses on cultivating inner happiness and allowing you to eventually become the true definition of what a man should be. It doesn't focus on games, but rather on making your internal being that much stronger. When you follow the principles of Stoicism, you'll notice that you learn to find happiness in the smaller things, which means that you don't walk around constantly stressed out in life. No, you seem much calmer and in control, while not allowing your emotions to ever take control of your being. Not only does this make it a little easier for you to navigate the world, but the byproduct of adapting your personality in such a way will ensure that you can become far more attractive to women. You see, when you do master the art of Stoicism, you'll also notice that a lot of who you are becomes somewhat old school or old-fashioned. Yes, you'll struggle to adapt to woke culture when you follow Stoic principles. But as a final word of warning, you need to also know that becoming Stoic isn't easy, and you'll be forced to deal with a lot of demons. But if you're unwilling to face your own demons, you'll definitely find it very hard to actually overcome the challenges of the world, including those of women. With that being said, let's look at 3 of the most powerful hacks that those who practice Stoicism often use to make women obsess over them. Now, keep in mind that not all these things are done purposely, and some tend to be byproducts of the way someone who subscribes to Stoicism can attract women to them.
Fearlessforge.
Number 1. Powerful emotional control. To better understand this principle, it's important that you understand the difference in how men and women deal with emotions. You see, women often trust their emotions, and whenever something triggers them emotionally, they might think that it's actually the end of the world. Yes, women believe that they have emotions for a reason, and that in many cases it actually trumps logic. You see, men, on the other hand, need to be a little more controlled, and many men, especially some of those who grew up in the previous generation, have learned that you don't respond to emotions. In fact, famous CIA operative Andrew Bustamante is one of the first to acknowledge that emotions lie to you. According to many psychological studies, the brain tends to naturally respond to emotions much faster, and this is simply a way of trying to prevent fear or your body telling you that something is scary. However, a couple of seconds later, you'll realize that the small towel lying on the floor in the dark is nothing malicious, but this takes a few seconds for the rational side of the brain to kick into action. But how does this apply to women? You see, women who are already emotional need to have some kind of counterbalance, and this is where a man who doesn't succumb to his emotions often comes into play. What she sees is a man who comes across as stable and powerful instead of someone who reacts to everything that life throws his way. This creates trust and security. By giving her some level of stability, she'll always know that you're the guy who keeps everything calm, and you can most probably make everything better as well. This creates somewhat of a codependent relationship that she craves. So instead of reacting to emotional outbursts or reacting impulsively when things go wrong, you're far better at taking your time to process the information, which should allow you to make much better decisions. The real attraction comes in when you consider the perspective of the other person. You see, to her, you're now the only person who can stop and make logical decisions that actually make things better. Since women understand the pressures of raising children and becoming pregnant, this will set you one step ahead of anyone else. You want to become the cornerstone or rock that cannot be moved by anything. Number 2, not giving her the reaction she wants. The second hack is very similar to number one and also uses the same principles. You see, women who like you love to play games, and these games are often designed to elicit some kind of emotions from the person she likes. You see, even though women don't desire to control the conversation and actually want to be the one following, she'll try to test you. Now, the response from the average man might be to immediately assert his dominance, and this might seem as if he's a little too overbearing. Thanks to the modern state of men and most of the reactions they give, the Stoic man uses his knowledge of Stoicism to create confusion, but the confusion is somewhat attractive and often resembles a puzzle that needs to be solved. You see, instead of engaging in this struggle for power, the Stoic man allows his opposition to tire themselves out. This is very similar to a python, which tends to wrap himself around his prey and allow them to fight, while he patiently squeezes the life out of it, and then the kill becomes that much easier. Perhaps you've missed it, but the key word here is patience, and patience is one of the most attractive traits that you ought to learn as soon as possible. What happens is that whenever she plays her games and you're non-reactive, you'll find that she doesn't know what this means, and now you become an enigma to her. If you know anything about women, you'll find that they tend to love solving puzzles and overcoming riddles. In fact, it can occasionally become somewhat of an addiction for women to try and figure out a Stoic or Sigma man. The same is actually true for all human beings who ultimately hate not knowing things. Now, the question is, how do you do this? Well, aside from being non-reactive to many of the situations designed to bring out emotions, you don't have to reveal too much about yourself either. Regardless of how successful you are, women often get bored when they have a man completely figured out, and you don't want to be that guy. But the moment you realize that knowing your thoughts and others not knowing them gives you an advantage while creating intense curiosity, you've done half the job. So being stoic does mean that you need to have some emotional strength, and you'll have to focus on being quite conscious in your interactions. Eventually, this will also become second nature, which should make things even easier for you. Number 3, making her work for your attention. You see, one of the biggest issues with modern men is that the moment they get some attention from a woman, they'll automatically make this woman their number one priority. However, those who follow the power of Stoicism would much rather continue focusing on themselves, where they would find that the woman becomes even more attracted. You see, modern women have learned that simply being a woman is enough to divert all of a man's attention, and when they don't manage, they wonder if they're the problem, or if the guy might not be as interested as she thinks. As you can already tell, this is what creates some attraction, and one of the main reasons why she'll continuously obsess and overanalyze every action. She realizes that your attention can't be swayed by her beauty, and resorting to games to bring out emotions doesn't work either. Since none of these plans work, she'll continuously want to try something else. However, coming up with something else means that she'll actually need to plan for this, and this is when you'll realize that you now have all of her attention. Ideally, a woman would eventually start to submit, and it means that you've overcome some of her games. She'll now try to figure you out by actually engaging and having pure intentions, but this will take some time, and it's once again patience that will be your best friend. Stoicism is one of the most powerful philosophies, and its primary goals are not to get women, but rather to improve yourself. Stoicism might not turn you into a monster, but it'll make people respect you for your calm and powerful demeanor. But now that you know how to make her obsessed with you, you probably also want to get her in bed. Make sure to check out this next video on 3 stoic qualities that make women want to sleep with you.